Hello and welcome. My name is John Hobby. Welcome to the Great Poker Chip Adventure. This is episode 8, also known as the Midseason Update. That's right. We're talking about all sorts of stuff today. We're not going to review one specific chip. We're going to talk about everything that we've accomplished up to this point. Some things have changed. I'm going to discuss that, and we're going to discuss the future of all these videos and series and all of that. So let's jump into this. This is a set of face cards that was recommended by a viewer, and I'd like to start out by thanking all the viewers and all my subscribers. Thank you for your input. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing, and all the great comments. Seriously, there's a lot of great comments out there, even if they're just silly comments that are entertaining, like making fun of me or laughing at me. I appreciate those too, because it brings some entertainment value to the whole environment, which, and I think that's important for this setting. It should be fun, right? So let's jump into this. Grab 2 cards off your deck at home, and thank you for everybody that participates in this. I really appreciate it. So I'm going to go ahead and burn a card here. I'm not going to deal 2 out, so potentially you could have 5 of a kind or 6 of a kind, but we'll see what happens. We're going to flop. Now these cards, like I said, were recommended by a viewer, and I'm really impressed. Look, they have the number up here, so you can play left-handed if you want. Pretty interesting. I really like these. Interesting design. I'm very happy with these. 100% PVC, so these are a plastic card. Dal Negro, something or other. Dal Negro, D-A-L space N-E-G-R-O. They're made in Italy. And there you go. That's, can be pretty interesting depending on what you have. All right, so these are up for review along with many other face cards. That's going to be part of the money card series. That's going to be after the Great Poker Chip Adventure, which is what we're doing right now. Now, let's talk about this. Now, I know I've said this in other videos, but just kind of as the mid-season update here, I am only reviewing stock poker chips that are commonly available in the United States. So if you have a European poker tour chip that's really interesting, unfortunately, they're very difficult to get here in the United States. They're not readily available, so I'm not doing anybody a favor here by reviewing them. So that's one of the limitations of this series. Now, there are some really interesting European chips out there. And for those of you in the United States who don't understand why I'm addressing this, a lot of people have trouble with a lot of these chips because they're dollar denominations, right? That works well in Canada or United States, but like in places where you would have a euro or a pound, like in England, like the United Kingdom, it doesn't help them for a chip like this, right? So they're in the denominations, don't help them at all. So this is kind of a specific region, right, that I'm reviewing for. That's just one of the limitations of this series. That's how it is. So moving on. The other thing I want to talk about, there are certain group purchase chips that you can get through various websites that are offered, for example, from PGI, Palm Gaming, International, or Imports, whatever. I forget what the initials stand for, but PGI will offer these group purchase custom chips. And because they are group purchase, you get them for a lot less than if you just went out and ordered a custom set from them. Does that make sense? Because if they're going to machine up for this custom set, they might as well make 40,000 rather than just a few. So just a few hundred. So I'm not going to review those. Those are very limited production, albeit usually very, very nice chips, and they can be a pretty good deal. So if you guys are into those, yeah, good for you. And fortunately, this stock poker chip review probably will not help you. This is probably catered more towards the new poker chip purchaser, people who are new to poker chips. So again, just a limitation of what this series is about. And I have to really, I really have to limit myself because I have so many chips, and I spend hours playing with these chips, and I'll be shuffling them in both hands, just trying to get the most out of it and trying to decide what are the most interesting chip and what are the chips I like the most. So, that's just how the chips fall, right? How the cards flip, how whatever analogy you want to use. So another thought, mid-season here. Now, there's a lot of discussion. For some reason, Pulsons are the gold standard for quality control, and I agree with that. And there's so much talk about, well, if I can't afford Paulsons, or what if, You know, for whatever reason you don't want Paulsons, you know, if you like the Paulsons and you want the Paulsons, get the Paulsons. If you have to save up for another 3 months, save up for another 3 months. Now, another, I don't know if I should dive into this now. Maybe I will. So, but anyway, that's my recommendation, okay? So if you like the Paulsons, buy a set. If you buy something, if you buy a, let's call them affectionately, a lesser chip, not necessarily that they are, but if you do, then you're going to be thinking, man, maybe I can upgrade sometime, and you'll probably eventually buy a set of Paulsons. Now, Paulsons, now a lot of you are aware, Paulsons can be hard to get depending on the season, depending on what they're manufacturing. For example, February 2015, all subject to change, these top hat and cane are so hard to find, I'm taking them out of the Great Poker Chip Adventure. Does that make sense? So I'm not going to review these. If I did review them, and I was planning on reviewing them, remember how on my next gen video, I said that these next gens, here they are, these next gens are in my top 3 favorite sets because the value that you get and the quality you get are so far above, you know, everything else in this price range. These do not compare well to the Paulsons. These are terrible compared to the Paulsons, but for the price range they're in, they're wonderful. That's why they're in my top 3. They still are. These top hat and cane, not the classics, the top hat and cane were number 1, which is really aggravating. My dad has lots of Paulsons. I'll talk about that here in a minute. And I love these. These are my favorite chips ever, 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 ever from a stock standpoint. You look at the progressive edge marks, right? So the edge marks progress to all sorts of interesting things. It's just excellent. It's beautiful. Not only do the edge marks progress, but the inlays progress. Look at the different shapes here. It's amazing. It's wonderful. I love them. Okay. But like I said, February 2015, they're incredibly hard to find. I'm not sure if this is the reason. This is speculation on my part. Steve Wynn is building a new casino near Boston. And I suspect he's put in a huge order for poker chips. And my guess is they've shut down some of their commercial lines and retooled them for that order, maybe possibly other orders. So, you know, I don't fault Paulson for that at all. I wish they would tell us what's going on. Are they going to come back with these top hat and cane? My favorite Paulson ever made ever? Maybe, maybe not. We just don't know. So, you know, I'm not, again, speculation. Maybe they're just discontinuing these because they weren't a good seller. I have no idea. So these are out, unfortunately, of the Great Poker Chip Adventure. And that all of a sudden opens the floodgates to, well, what else? Because those were 2 of my top picks right there. Now one of them's gone. So now what's going to fill its space? Well, that all of a sudden chips that were, you know, not a contender like Milano are all of a sudden contenders again. In my Milano review, I said these weren't, you know, going to be one of my top picks. Now they could easily be. Same with Desert Palms. These were originally not going to be in my top 3, but they easily could be now. It's hard to say. Same with Classics. You know, if Classics are the best currently manufactured stock poker chip, these could end up in the number 1 spot. I'm still not sure. I'm still examining all of these chips. And I suspect, based on the quality of like Nevada Jack, these are really interesting chips. Now, if you've seen my first impression of these, I criticized them for not being centered. And that's true. You know, they're still not centered. I bought a lot more of them, and they still have a centering issue like this one. You see? The image here is slightly off to the left. There's more red space over here than over here. I mean, it's just, but that's true across, and if you've watched my scroll review, it's true with all ceramics. I haven't found a single ceramic set that's perfectly centered. The end. That's the end of the story. As far as I'm concerned, I have evidence. I have hundreds of examples. Okay, they're not centered. Tiki, not centered. Nevada Jack, not centered. Scroll, not centered. Nile Club, not centered. So understand, you know, there are just some limitations of production. It's like saying, for example, that'd be like criticizing Pulson, like not being centered for a ceramic like Pulson. Oh, look, there's not a straight edge here. Look, there's not a straight edge there. Well, that's just the manufacturing process. Same with the ceramic chips, just the way they're manufactured. Very difficult to get them perfectly centered. I can understand that. All right, so moving on. Centering is no longer a huge concern for me because that's just across the board, you know, limitations of ceramics. And I also want to address this idea of video length. Please, again, thanks for bearing with me as I discuss a lot of little details about these chips, and understand that I have a lot more details that I could discuss that I don't. One of the more boring ones, and one of the reasons why I cut this out, are demonstrations of the static coefficient of friction. Great, this is going to get nerdy here for 1 second. I want to do this in this one video, just so you can see what I'm talking about. All right, so people say, oh, well, how slick are these compared to other chips? And that's something that concerns me, but a lot of people are more interested in sound and shuffling and all that stuff. But so, I mean, you can devise something, and I'm trying to do it visually. If I just, calculate numbers and I give you a number, what does that mean? 13. What does that mean? It doesn't mean anything to a lot of you. So, you come up with ways to visually demonstrate this, where you line up a whole bunch of chips, different makes, different whatever, and you say, well, how do these compare? Well, you can kind of demonstrate that, and this is a crude example. I would have come up with a more sophisticated example. You just tilt something, a consistent surface, and then whichever one slides off the first is the most slippery. A pretty interesting graphical design, or a visual representation of what's going on. And if you can do it gently enough, you can see which one's the most sticky. Now, and which one's the most slick. But you would understand, in order for that to be relevant in any sort of scientific way, there would have to be a huge random sample, and it would have to be on different parts of the wood. Obviously, I wouldn't use wood. I'd probably use something more consistent than wood. And, with multiple different chips, and it gets really complicated real quick. So, I'm, trying to spare you guys, the pain of watching countless hours of testing, So just some thoughts about videos. Those videos my videos can be a lot longer. I try to keep them to what I would expect a normal TV show to be, around 22 minutes. Some of them will be a little bit longer. That's just the nature of the reviews. If you want a really short review, you can find all sorts of things, and you can just go look at pictures and read the description on any website, and there you go. There you have it. You can make a quick decision. But if you really care, you're really interested in poker chips, I'm trying to balance the two, right? So please understand that. And that's one of the reasons why I don't go as in depth as maybe some of you can in the comments. Like I said, some of my viewers have so much more knowledge than I do, and they've been doing this for decades. They've been collecting chips, playing with chips longer than I've been alive. So again, thank you for watching, and thank you for your comments and helping to direct lots of the newer people to a good set of poker chips. The other thing that has changed, I have developed kind of an irrational hatred for metal insert chips. Let's represent here, like the Monte Carlo, the Poker Nights, whatever else I have here, like Desert Heat. I just can't get over these sharp edges. I was thinking, oh, well, one of the manufacturers surely will not have that sharp edge. No, they all do. It's irritating. I'm not even going to buy any more of these sets. I'm done with these. They're just too heavy. I don't like the metal insert. I don't like the flatness issues. I don't like the quality of them. They're, as far as I'm concerned, these are right now in the same avoid segment as the dice chips, right? Now, if you ouch. Now this hurts me too, because I was originally on board with the dice chips. I stocked my craps table with these at first, and I was like, sweet. These, my friends can abuse these, and trust me, they do abuse them, and I don't have to worry about it. But they're just not good enough. Now, it might be because of this adventure I'm going on. It might be because I've been playing with these chips for the last year that I've decided these are not going to cut the mustard. So these and all of these are out, all right? I will probably still do a review of these coin inlay chips because I have some interesting thoughts about those. But I mean, I'm going to, from now on, if you're interested in any 11.5, did I say that right? 11.5, so 11.5 gram up to 15 gram metal insert chip, ABS, plastic chip, just watch one of my other reviews like the Desert Heat or Monte Carlo, and then they're pretty much the same, just with a different design. So you run off of those. I'm not going to review any more of them. All right, so that said, that should save us some time and some videos. But yeah, that's a change in my perception and my preferences. And that's all this is. These are my preferences. And I think that's the key takeaway message here. Like, I can present all sorts of scientific information and I can give my opinion, but ultimately it's you who makes the decision. I'm not going to insult your intelligence and mine by telling you, everybody go out and buy this chip. This is the best chip ever, right? I can't do that with any. Get these. These are what everybody needs, because everybody has different preferences. It's not what everybody needs. And another thought here. Trying to straighten up here. Kind of mid-season. I've noticed that my preference is more childish and maybe more mature than other people's. Like, some people like really refined stuff. Maybe Top Hat and Cane was pretty refined, but I really like these tiki clubs because they're just happy and fun. The Nevada Jacks are a little too serious for me, but I still really like the design, you know. But I like both of these more than I like the Milano design, just because it looks so mature. I don't know. Maybe it's just the child in me. Poker chips, a way to let that out. Anyway, that's another update. Now, let's talk about the future real quick. I told you I'm probably going to restock my craps table with a different chip. And I am not going to include that in this series. Maybe I'll make a separate little video or two about my new craps set if I ever get around to it, and the thought process that goes into that. But it probably won't be a whole series like this. Like I said, this is more of a Hold'em poker chip, Texas Hold'em poker chip, rather than a craps or a multifunction poker chip. So that's kind of the limitations, again, one of the limitations. Now, another thing that we might do in the future, we might talk about custom chips, customizing Milanos, customizing ceramics, customizing all sorts of chips. That may be in a separate series, but not this series. And the other interesting thing are roulette chips. I always think they're interesting, but maybe, I don't know if I'll ever have a roulette table. We'll see. As of right now, I do not. Right now, I'm limited to blackjack, poker, traveling poker, and craps. So, you know, everything can change here. And if you've made it this far in the video, real quick, what started this whole thing, the background to it. I used to live in the same state as my father. My father, I told you, he loves gaming. He has casino chips that he saved just because he liked the look of them, right? So it'll be like, oh, look, a $25, Dunes chip. I'm just going to save this because I like it. Or in there, he has commemorative ones, like, maybe not commemorative, but like limited edition ones where they like have a show or celebrity that's performing at their casino. And so they'll have their face on their poker chip. He'll save stuff like that. He might have $100, maybe thousands of dollars, I don't know, of those chips just kicking around. And he has Paulsons, right? He has these Top Hat and Cane. Some of these, I took some of his Top Hat and Cane ones. Hi, Dad. I still have your chips. And I got used to these, right? You get used to playing with Paulsons for a lot of my life. And I move out of state. Now I live in Ohio. I move out of state. I move way out east here. And all of a sudden, I don't have any chips. So I'm like, oh no, I need to get some chips. And that's what started this whole thing. And at first I thought, oh, it's easy. I'm just going to go out and get some cheap chips. And then, like I just told you, you get some cheap chips and you realize, no, I've been spoiled my whole life. I can't live with this. And then I was like, well, and then I'm looking for something that's more interesting and more fun, right? So that's what kind of started the whole thing. I had some tables I needed to supply, and I needed something nicer. And we'll see where that leads, but so far it's leading back to the path of the more I play with chips, the more I am leaning towards the nicer chips, which is pretty annoying because the whole reason why I did this was like, I'm going to find some cheap chips that some inexpensive chips that I really like that are just as good as these Paulsons. Like the perfect chip, I can tell you right now, would cost the same amount as this, whatever these next gens go for, $70 a set after shipping, maybe $50 plus shipping, whatever that'll be, 65, 70 bucks. And you'd get this kind of quality. But that's not going to happen. You're not going to get this kind of quality controller manufacturing for 70 bucks. That's for a set of 300, I'm saying. All right, well, that's the conclusion of the mid-season update here. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate all of your support and all the interest that you guys show in these chips, and thanks for helping people out. Like, if you see comments that you can answer, please answer them. So kind of sad that we lost one of my favorite sets here. I got these ones everywhere, don't I? But we'll put our nose to the grindstone and find my other find some new sets I really enjoy. Thanks for watching. My name is John Hobby. Please subscribe, and I'll be back in a few weeks with more poker chips.